Hello, hobby friends, and welcome to today's episode of Hobby Talk. My name is David Baez. Today's guest is Nick Vanni. Nick has the #1 BGS set registry on one of the most difficult early 90s sets in existence, the 1991 Topps Desert Shield cards, with all 700 plus cards encapsulated. Truly an amazing feat. He is also one of the co-founders of BNC Authenticators, which is a site dedicated to helping Desert Shield card collectors identify authentic cards in the marketplace. This is the first Hobby Talk episode that we're actually doing audio only, but Nick was gracious enough to share several pictures from his great collection, and we'll have links to the set registry and authentication website as well. So thanks for watching and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Hobby Talk. I'm here with Nick Vanni, and we're going to talk some Desert Shield. Nick, thanks for joining Hobby Talk, and also thank you for your service. Let's get right into it, buddy. I want to know a little bit about, in general, what were some of those sports cards that started it all for you?
Well, back when I was in second, third grade, I remember it was in 91, actually, 1991. My mom bought me a pack of if you remember the 1991 Fleer, the ugly yellow cards.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when I opened my first pack, I remember this. I got a Jose Canseco Provision. And I thought that was the coolest card ever because he had the lightning strike in the bat. And
Oh, yeah, I remember that card.
And I was like, whoa, that's so awesome. And I also got, of course, one of my favorite players to ever see in person was Nolan Ryan. I got a Nolan Ryan card, so I was hooked from there. And from there, I just started chasing all the provisions, through the packs, and kept searching packs. So I got the whole set. And then the other one was the little pinball game. They had a pinball game in the arcade. And it was kind of like a baseball game, and it would shoot the pinball like a pitcher. And you had one flipper, and you would hit it like you were a batsman.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
And if you got a run, they'd shoot out some 91 regular Topps cards. And we would play that game trying to get, as much as we can. We spent many quarters on that. But that's kind of what got me started.
Man, I love that story, and that's so cool. You reminded me. I remember going down to the Jersey Shore, and the same thing. We had the same pinball machine where it would spit out cards.
Oh yeah, I loved that thing. It ate up, like I said, our allowance pretty quick though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh man, and you made me laugh with the Fleer because I did spend quite a pretty penny back in the day on Fleer. I think we're at the break-even point now.
Yeah.
Too funny. So great. I love hearing that. So let's segue now into the world of Desert Shield, Nick. And can you give the listeners a 101 on the history of the cards in terms of why they were produced and how were they sold and distributed?
Sure. So the 1991 Topps Desert Shield, with the exception of the gold emblem and on the card that has a little palm tree and it says Operation Desert Shield, there's no difference in the photos or stock quality or any of that. So if you're familiar with the 91 just Topps, they had the 40th anniversary logo and a lot of good action shots. Well, what Topps did is during 1990, if you remember, we had Operation Desert Shield going on, and that was where our troops were in Saudi Arabia, just basically kind of providing a buffer, so to speak, for Kuwait because they're having some issues with Iraq at the time in the Middle East. And Topps decided in late 1990 to go ahead and produce a special set of baseball cards, just, official Topps baseball cards that were Operation Desert Shield with the gold logo on them. And they produced 500 cases of these cards, which comes out to approximately 6,800 of each card. But they were never produced in factory set. So it was produced just like your vintage cards, back in the 60s, 50s, where it was only in regular packs. So they made them, they put them in packs and put them in boxes. The packs and the boxes are indistinguishable from the regular 1991 tops. And then they sent them to Air Force bases, mostly out of South Carolina. I believe Shaw was one of them. And they were
Okay.
from there, they were going overseas and distributed to the troops that were overseas. Well, they weren't sold in retail or anything like that. That's how they were given. Well, about a
Okay.
third of them, they made the 500 cases. After that, Operation Desert Storm kicked off in early 1991, so they didn't make any more at that point because Operation Desert Shield was no more because the war had started. Well,
Right.
at that point, they kept sending the cards over, but a lot of them stayed stateside. I say a lot, maybe half to 3/5. The rest of them were sent overseas to the troops, and as you can imagine, most of the ones that were sent over to the troops never came back.
I could, yeah, I was gonna say, and if they did come back, I imagine the quality of the cards would have taken a beating. Just it's in terms of storage and even climate, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. So, you're saying so about half were maybe made it out there. Now, how did or what about the other half, and how did that any intel or information in terms of how the tops handled the remaining product in stateside?
So what? Actually, I've talked to several. I'm friends with several vets who, once I started the set, I got to meet, and it's been very rewarding, to talk to them.
Absolutely, I could imagine.
But from what they were telling me, that back here, so Tops had already distributed these cards to, and it's approximately 10,000 boxes of 36 packs each when you do the math.
Right.
So they distributed them to the Air Force bases to send over. So the ones that didn't get sent over, they just started giving them out to troops, like if here locally. So some of them wanted them, and I know how that is because I've been stationed places where they're trying to just get rid of stuff, and hey, here you go, whether you want it or not. So what some of the troops would do, they give it, they'd give them to the troops that were here stateside, and some of them there collected them, some of them just trashed them. But from what I understand, there were several collectors because, as you know, 91 was a big, right in the middle of the junk wax era. So
Oh yeah.
everybody's, trying to get all the cards. So here's some cards that were not mainstream that people wanted. So they were offering them, now at the time, big money, offering them like $500 for a case, and of course, the troops are going to say, sure, but by then there's so few of them, they're
Yeah,
probably,
I mean, it's
but
funny. I imagine $500 a case now, Nick. I mean, I think that you can get $500 maybe for a couple packs now, right?
one.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh, yeah,
But
but to
yeah,
your point, it
so
was junk wax era, so it was just really hard to gauge a price point on something like this, right?
it is. And then, I mean, and that's generally where you see the gem mints, the mint nines cards are coming out of, or those. I mean, there's very few, like I said, that went over there that actually had the discipline to keep the stuff unopened. Who would even care to, and then bring it back? Because you got to remember, these are servicemen. So I just remember when I was deployed, I didn't I just wanted, when I came back, I just stuffed everything in a duffel bag and I just want to come back. I wasn't trying to keep stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like let me just get home, right?
Oh yeah, much less. Oh, I got to keep these cards in good shape. So.
Yeah, I could imagine. Wow. And Nick, just as we're going through the interview, I just want to mention that at this point, I'm going to share the awesome picture you sent me of the unopened box that you have. Nick, can you talk a little bit about that particular box?
Well, actually, one of the guys that I've met while I've started my set, his name's Clem Bell, and he was an actual veteran and he was in the U.S. Navy, and he was actually stationed over there during that time, and he brought some cards back. That's one of the boxes he brought back. So I worked on him a little bit, and he finally parted that ways with that box. So that's one
Right.
that will sit with my set, and it'll probably more than likely never be open unless.
Yeah, you're speaking my language now, Nick. I'm a total unopened nerd, man. So that's awesome.
And I've been and really a huge shout out to him, because when I first started, I knew about the Desert Shield set because I'd collected previous. I had a 10-year break in collecting. I stopped collecting in 2008 and came back into it in 2017 once my daughter was born.
Right.
It was kind of my first, actually my card for my Father's Day gift when she was born was a Nolan Ryan 9.5 Desert Shield card, and that's kind of
Oh,
what got
how cool is
that.
that?
Yes, so that's at first, because I was getting back into collecting, I thought, well, let me just, I always wanted one of the cards. Let me get the Nolan Ryan, and then I'll go on to other stuff. And then I started researching the set, seeing what it was about, and I thought, me being military as well, I thought this would actually be pretty cool to try to complete a graded set, because there's between PSA and Beckett, I'd have to look at the registries, but I think there's around 10, maybe 12 completely graded sets. That's it. So
Right.
I was going to give it a shot. And instead of just like before, what kind of burned me out was collect this, collect that. I had no real goal. This gave me a goal of, to collect the entire set, and to at least my end game is to get all nines or above. Right now, I've had to settle with some 8.5s, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But
Yeah, no, please go fire away, because I mean that was actually my next question to you, was to talk about
okay.
your amazing set registry. And before you dive into a little further, I just want to note, guys, that and I'll mention it in the introduction as well, that Nick has the number one BGS set registry out there with an amazing set of grades. I had an opportunity to look at it earlier, and my jaw was just dropping. And as you're talking about this, the viewers on YouTube will get an opportunity to see some of the great cards in your collection. But yeah, no, I love the inspiration, the story behind how you started. Yeah, if you can get into the weeds a little bit more in terms of the combination of purchasing slabs, self-submitting, and what inspired you to go for that full set.
Well, when I first started, I didn't really, because when I got out of collecting back in 2007-8, grading was, graded cards were kind of coming mainstream, but I was one of those who wasn't really into them. So I never really collected graded cards. I had one graded card that I actually kept. It was a PSA 9. I prefer Beckett's casing. That's just my preference. So I
Mhm.
switched it over to a Beckett 9, 1968 Topps Mickey Mantle, because that was one of my favorite cards that I had. So
Very
I wanted to
cool.
keep that. I sold the rest. I'm kind of looking at some of the prices now. I wish I hadn't, but I kept it. I got out of it. Like I said, I got back in once my daughter was born. But so when I first started the set, I wasn't really, I knew there were some fakes out there, but I didn't really know how to spot them that well. I didn't know much about the set except, from what little bit I researched. I knew they were given to troops, and I thought that was cool. And so I started it, and I started kind of looking on eBay. And as I mentioned earlier, I met Clem because he was selling some of his extras, and I started talking with him, and we became friends. And he started educating me on, a lot of stuff to look for, and how to get, some of the cards that are actually very tough. So I'll give you
Right.
a perfect example before I get into grading actually the set. But card number 26 is Louis Soho. There are no Gem Mint examples graded between Beckett, PSA, or SGC. Nobody's graded any. It's just a poorly made card. It has bad centering issues. If you can find one centered, it's got, almost all of them have some type of print dots or print defects on them. Uh,
Interesting.
oh yeah, mine. because I remember I bought a PSA 9 of it, and then I broke it out and sent it up to Beckett, and it came back an 8.5 because of the surface got an 8. So
Yeah.
I was kind of bummed about that, but when I looked closer, I could tell the print dots were there. So I
Yeah.
get it. But that's one that if you get a Jim Mint example of either PSA or Beckett, you're probably looking at $1,500 card, because there's several of us who would love to have the only Jim Mint example in our set.
Oh yeah, it's so crazy scarce. I could imagine if one does pop up, it's to your point. Yeah, it's there. The set collectors are definitely going to be interested.
Oh yes, and it's just
Yeah.
that, I mean, and the funny thing is that would probably outsell, several of the Jim Mint Hall of Famer examples, and I've never even heard of the guy until I got
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like when you look
I
at some error cards and some of these like scarcer tens, when you're building a set, you end up spending Hall of Fame price for like a utility player on a last place team that year.
Oh yes, I know.
Yeah.
Marty
Too.
Clary, I forget the number right off the top of my head, but that one is a very difficult one to find too, and in a 9 or better.
Yeah.
And there's
What,
only
what
one.
what was the card? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
It's the Braves' Marty Clary. He was a pitcher,
Okay.
and there's only one PSA 10 out there. There's no Beckett. Oh no, there's no, I believe 1 or 2 Beckett 9.5s, and then the 9s. There's only about 20 or so. I'd have to look at the pop reports again, but
Yeah.
again, that's a tough one to get, because people are trying to make their sets 9 or above all they can, and
Yeah.
it's just, that's another one that it has all the cards
Right.
ink dot on the top right corner. Or
Kudos to you, Nick. I mean, one of the things I will say is that, you know, when you're looking at, 700 plus cards, in this case, I believe what 792, right? Is the number 91?
yes,
Yeah, 792 cards to complete a set is a daunting task, and to have 8 and higher on your set registry for every, for all of the cards you have that's just simply mind-boggling. That's amazing, and it's a testament to how committed you are to building this set. So, I tip my hat to you. That's awesome. It is very cool.
well, thank you. It was I worked on it it's still a work in progress, of course, but it took me 3 years to complete, and doing nothing else. I bought nothing else, or looked really at nothing else sports related wise except this set.
Yeah, and
So
I'll tell you, as an unopened nerd, I'm happy you completed the set, because that means that nice box that you have stays unopened.
yeah, I've opened several. You mentioned that I've opened several packs to
Yeah.
try to find cards I needed, and there. And just in case there's anyone out there kind of struggling with opening a pack or not, let me tell you, it's a crapshoot, because I remember I opened 5 at a time back to back and got no Hall of Famers in any of them.
Yeesh.
The only reason it wasn't a complete bust is because I was able to send several of them up, the commons up to
Right.
Beckett and get 9s or better. So I was okay with that. But if I'd have opened that now, trying to upgrade my set, and that happened, I'd have been sick.
I
And
could only imagine. Yeah. I mean, and that's the byproduct of having a set with 792
yeah,
cards, is that, yeah, it's very common to open up, it's happened to me when I've ripped cards with my son, when we do some of the junk wax, the 90 fleers and stuff like that, where we might go like 12, 13 packs deep before we get a name where you can actually recognize.
oh,
From well, at least my son anyway. I recognize them as those are my peak years, but for him, it's like, who are these guys? I'm like, oh, let's not even get into it.
yeah.
But no, that's great. So let's segue now into talking about, unfortunately, one of the most common issues, Nick, with cards, and that's the increasing amount of fakes that are in the market.
Oh,
Can you give us a 101 on that? Can you share some tips on how to detect the fakes?
sure. Actually, before I get started on that, because this is such an issue, I've I'm started with two other people, a company. It's called BNC Authenticators,
Oh,
and
fantastic. Okay.
we actually authenticate the cards, and for people who are unsure of what to do. So what's good about this is we don't even need the card. And we're not a grading company, and you don't have to send us a card. All you have to do is send us a screenshot or a picture, a clear picture of the emblem, and we go and we authenticate it. And
That's
that way, so
fantastic.
let's just say, and I've been hit. Thankfully for me, I haven't. It wasn't high dollar cards, but there's a couple times on eBay where the pictures were kind of bad, and I took a chance on them, and they came in and they were fake. I immediately noticed them. But all you need is a good solid picture. You send it to us, and if you want to buy that, $1,500 mint chipper, it'd be it. It'd take you a day or two, and we'll get it back. It wouldn't take long,
Yeah.
and you'll that way hey, this is legit versus let me just take a chance. And you would generally
Yeah.
think that that graded cards would be authentic, and that's what I thought at first when I bought them. But we're seeing it's increasing. We're seeing more and more PSA graded fakes out there. We even caught a couple of Beckett fakes. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I think that's the unfortunate part of the awesome hobby that we're all in, Nick, is that, as the years progress, some of the folks out there creating these fakes are unfortunately getting better, and the bar keeps on getting raised. So I really applaud you and your friends' efforts.
I will say this, and this is to put it in perspective, because it's always if it's too good to be true, it generally is. Uh, so keep in mind, there's been only 6,800 cards of each player produced, and we can say probably a third of those never made it back from overseas, and then another third, it's safe to say, are so beat up they're probably not even worth grading. So
Right.
that leaves us to what, about maybe 1,500, 2,000 cards each. So when you see, and most of them, because this set now is 30 years old, if you see a bunch of ungraded cards, say on eBay or somewhere else, that look pristine,
Hmm.
and they're, especially if they're Chipper Jones, Ken Griffey Jr., Nolan Ryan, the big names that are worth a lot of money,
Right.
right there, that's a red flag, because almost unless you're just opening packs, there's not that much unopened left.
Yeah.
You're just not going to get it. That's more than likely a fake. And what people have been doing is they've been taking regular 1991 tops, uh, covers and the gum, and they would
Hmm.
stuff these fakes into these packs and reseal them and then sell them. So
Yeah. I,
if people are trying to sell you Desert Shield, quote unquote Desert Shield packs for $50, $75, or something like that, I would that's another huge red flag, because they're nowhere near that.
Yeah, no, and Nick, and that's I'm glad you brought that up too, because it it if you're going to, I guess this is my warning, right, to my fellow hobby friends out there. If you're going to take the plunge into, Desert Shield, number one, speak to good folks like yourself to get, that information to make sure that you're buying the right product and get it authenticated. But if you're going even into the unopened world, make sure that you can connect the dots on that box to, in your case with your box, that is a rock solid box. That is a legit Desert Shield, because the person, for everything from the person you purchase it from and the story behind it, it all checks out.
Yeah.
So especially with a premium product like Desert Shield, that is insanely important, because to your point, it's pretty easy to unfortunately, it's pretty easy to fake that.
Yes, unfortunately. I will say this too, though, for even though there are the graded fakes out there, we're talking less than 5% of the entire graded uh, population, probably more like less than 1%. So don't let it scare you away from actually starting the set, but
Right.
also be wary. And another good thing about our our service that we provide is we actually have a database, and every graded card that we either authenticate or don't authenticate, that's either that we say questionable authenticity, we'll put who the grader is, the serial number, and it goes in our database. So all our members, if they punch in the serial number or even just the name, it'll pull up of the player. It'll pull up all the cards that are in that have been put into that database, and you can tell if they're authentic or not if we've seen
That's a fantastic service, Nick. Again, I'll make sure to share that information on the links for this interview. Great stuff. So Nick, let's wrap things up here, buddy, with a couple fun questions. If I could put you in the penalty box here for a minute, if you're up for that. All right, good deal. All right, so I love it because I'm thinking these questions must really stress you guys out. So but if you had to give up your entire collection, Nick, except for one item, what would it be and why?
I would say that's a tough one. It's between the mantle or I have a 1934 PSA 7 Gaudi Lou Gehrig, the number 37, the one with the yellow back.
I love that card.
That was my all-time favorite card. And I remember when I was but before I got out of collecting in 2008, the first time, that was when I was looking at, and I remember seeing it. It was a low 4-figure card, and I was like, man, I can't, I'm just a single young airman, making peanuts a month, and I said, I can't afford that. and then now, I just picked it up. It was kind of a celebratory. I finally found one. I always wanted a 7 or higher, and difficult to find in high grade. And I finally found one, and it was right when I was sending my last few cards out to Beckett to be graded and actually had the set complete. So it's kind of a celebratory. I'm done. Let me get it while I found one, and I'll just say it's appreciated some. I should have bought it back when I should have just scraped the money together and bought it back when I was younger. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
That's a beauty of a card. I'll share it with the group as well. And yeah, great answer. So last question for you, buddy, is outside of the Desert Shield collection and hobby, what hobby are you most interested in and why?
I would say, outside of that, I like to I do a little bit of coin collecting and currency collecting, but I don't dabble that much into the currency just because I know how I am. I have OCD, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed. I'm sure anyone who builds a set like this and has to have so many grades, everything has to be a certain grade or higher. I'm not going to get too much into into collecting old currency, but I do have a few old pre-1933 gold coins because I always thought America used to make just some beautiful currency and coins.
I'm a huge fan.
So that I have. So that's pretty much. I like to dabble in that a little bit, but again, I don't get too much into it until I have my set where I want it to, which might take a few more years. But
yeah,
every now and then, if I see a nice piece of gold or silver or platinum coin or something like that, I'll pick it up.
Very cool. Very cool. And that's an awesome, like I said, that's another world that I dabble in. And that's an awesome, secondary hobby for sure. So Nick, I think I speak for not just, myself, but for the other viewers. We'll be on the lookout, for you. And if we see any cards that'll help you with your registry, you'll be getting some PMs from us. And we'll help the cause. That's hobbyists helping hobbyists, right?
Excellent. So, I appreciate it. Actually, if you give me a second, I do have there's a couple of big ones I really, really like. And
sure.
If anyone out there listening has a 9.5 Don Mattingly from the set, there's only one out there from Beckett, and I think there's 30 PSA 10s. I only have a 9, and I've been looking for that one. That's a tough one for me. So
okay,
that's one that there's no real, some of those you have to shoot from the hip when it comes to valuing them. So The last PSA 10s I've been seeing have been coming close to $1,000. So I always
Right.
offer for someone who can get me a Beckett 9.5. I always offer, if they're going to cross the card from PSA, I'll pay the grading fee and give them a 15% premium over PSA 10 sales on any cards I need.
Oh, wow.
So
Fantastic.
for any of the
Yeah.
95 Hall of Famers I need, there's several others, but that was just that's just one in particular that I would speak to. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also I'll share the link to on YouTube and on Twitter so that if people want to check out your registry and if they think they have something that you might like to help you increase your set registry, I'm sure they'll reach out to you.
oh yes,
So
excellent. That's how I got some of my best cards was just by accident, not by eBay.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, same thing with me and my PC. It's been the great collectors out there that have just kind of seen the post or just kind of heard from someone else that I'm looking for that. And like I said, hobby is helping hobbyists. So awesome, Nick. So with that being said, I can't thank you enough for this interview today. I hope you come back in the future to talk a little bit more with us on Desert Shield and maybe share some updates on your set.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
Great, great. Before we go, one last thing, if you can just share again anything you want in terms of websites, your groups on Facebook, anything, go for it, buddy.
All right. That in case anyone's interested, that authentication service again is called BNC Authenticators. So it'd be www.bncauthenticators.com.
Fantastic. Great, Nick. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon, buddy. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. Please click on the like and subscribe button. Just a couple quick updates. We are officially live on iTunes, Google, as well as Spotify for our podcast. Go to HobbyNetworkGroup.com for more details and links. Thanks for watching today's video and have a great day. Bye.